If making risotto intimidates you, I'm going to show you how easy it is to make, and it only takes 22 minutes from start to finish. And make sure you stay till the end, where I'm going to share with you the one secret ingredient I use to make my risotto extra creamy. So let me show you how simple it is to put together. Pronto? Allora andiamo a cucinare. Ciao my friends, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Lucia. I'm a chef and a nutritionist, and this is where I share my easy recipes for everyday cooking with you. So to start with our risotto, I have 4 cups of broth, and I'm just using vegetable broth on the stove that I've heated up. In another saucepan, I have 1 tablespoon of butter that I'm going to add and get that to start melting. Now when I choose my pan to make my risotto, I always want to use a large, deep-sided pan, because that gives me more room to move the risotto around, and that helps create that extra starchiness that risotto is known for. So to this, I'm going to add 1 small diced onion, and I'm going to add just a little bit of salt, and we just want to saute that for a few minutes. Right, so after your onions have cooked for a few minutes, we want to go ahead and add the Arborio rice, and I have like 1 cup of Arborio rice. It's a short grain rice, very starchy, and so we just want to toast the rice for a minute. Now you could use other rices, a long grain rice, other short grain rices also, but this is traditionally the rice that they use. It has amylose and amylase pectin in it, and it's that amylase pectin that makes it nice and starchy, and that's why the Arborio rice is the rice of choice. But again, you could use any rice that you have. You don't have to use the Arborio. So toasting it like this is going to help create some of those starches that we want later, so it's really important that we do this step, and it just takes about a minute or so. You'll hear it kind of start popping. It'll get kind of a golden brown color, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, so after about a minute that the Arborio rice toasts, we want to add about a 1/4 cup of white wine, and this is just going to help any deglazing and also the starting process of building the flavors. Now, if you don't have white wine, or you don't like to use wine, you could by all means add an extra cup, 1/4 cup of broth to this, or just plain water. It's totally fine. Now that we see that the wine is all absorbed, now we can start adding our broth. We do want to make sure that our broth is nice and hot, because we don't want to add cold broth into our hot rice, because that's going to cool it down, and it's going to take time to get heated back up again. So if everything is hot, the cooking time will be quicker. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to time on my timer 18 minutes from this point on, and in 18 minutes the rice should be cooked. So I'm going to add about 1 or 2 ladles at a time. The trick to making the Arborio rice nice and starchy is adding a little bit of liquid so it absorbs a little at a time, and this constant stirring agitation that will also help release the starches to give us that creamy texture that we want in the end. So just keep stirring, and as the broth is absorbed, where you could go like this and you don't see any more broth, that means we can add another ladle or 2. And you just want to continue this process until all the broth is absorbed. This 1 cup of Arborio rice will pretty much take between 3½ and 4 cups of water. The difference of the ½ cup is how much evaporation we get, but for the most part you should be able to use almost most of it. So while our risotto is still cooking, we can get our other ingredients ready that we're going to use. So I have about a cup of frozen peas. Of course, a cup is just a guideline. If you want to use more or less, that's totally fine. I have some roasted bell peppers. You can either get them in the jar, or you could roast them yourself. But just to make this dish easier, I just got them in a jar, and usually a 15-ounce jar has 2 of them, which is exactly what we want. And so we just want to take our bell pepper, and we just want to cut it in long strips. So now the last 2 minutes of cooking time is left, and so at this point we want to add another tablespoon of butter. It's going to help give it some creaminess. We're also going to add about 1/3 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. Now at this point you can just add whatever ingredients you want. And so we've got the frozen peas we're gonna add. We have our roasted peppers. And again, because these are already cooked, they don't need to cook. We just have to heat them up. And so we just wanna give those a toss so they start warming up. And you can already see how nice and creamy it is. And now for my secret ingredient, and that is mascarpone. I love mascarpone. Oh, there's our timer, 22 minutes is up, perfect. And so I'm gonna take about half of this, which is about 4 ounces. And we just want to stir until all that mascarpone is all melted and evenly distributed. Now it's at this point that we want to taste for salt. Because we've added the cheeses, sometimes they have salt already in them. So you don't want to add the salt at the beginning, so do check it at the end. Actually, I think that is good. We don't need to add any more salt. All right, now you can see how nice and creamy this is. And so we're going to add about half of the parsley that we had chopped up. And we're just going to give it a nice squirt of lemon and just evenly distribute that lemon juice. And that's really going to give the risotto a nice fresh spring taste to it. And so now we can go ahead and plate this fantastic risotto that only took 22 minutes. So you could serve this as your main dish. You could serve it as a side dish. And I'm just going to add a little parsley for garnish. And we can add another lemon wedge. And so it is perfect. Let's go ahead and give this one a try now. It is so creamy. It's really, really good. It's a quick dinner, and what would be perfect with this risotto would be this apple cake right here. I hope you give this one a try. I'm Chef Lucia. Until next time, I'll see ya. Ciao.